3, Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau, his brother, unto the land of Seir, the field of Edom. And he commanded them, saying, Thus shall ye say unto my lord Esau, Thus saith thy servant Jacob, I have sojourned with Laban and stayed until now, and I have oxen and asses and flocks and men servants and maidservants. And I have sent to tell my lord that I may find favor in thy sight. And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, We came to thy brother Esau, and moreover he cometh to meet thee, and 400 men with him. All right, 400 men probably is a reference to armed men, although it's not known for sure, but this of course strikes fear into the heart of Jacob. Verse 7 says, Then Jacob was greatly afraid and was distressed. And he divided the people that were with him, and the flocks, and the herds, and the camels, into 2 companies. And he said, If Esau come to the one company and smite it, then the company which is left shall escape. And Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, O Jehovah, who saidst unto me, Return unto thy country and to thy kindred, and I will do thee good. I am not worthy of the least of all the loving kindnesses and of all the truth which thou hast showed unto thy servant. For with my staff I passed over this Jordan, and now I am become 2 companies. Deliver me, I pray thee, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he come and smite me, the mother with the children. And thou saidst, I will surely do thee good, and make thy seed as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude. So we see here his concern, his fear, his strategic provisions in separating his company into 2 sections for survival. Verse 13, And he lodged there that night, and took of that which he had with him a present for Esau his brother, 200 she-goats, and 20 he-goats, 200 ewes, and 20 rams, 30 milch camels. What is a milch animal? A milch mammal? A mammal that gives milk, yes. And their colts, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 20 she-asses and 10 foals. And he delivered them into the hand of his servants. Every drove by itself, and said unto his servants, Pass over before me, and put a space betwixt drove and drove. And he commanded the foremost, saying, When Esau my brother meeteth thee, and asketh thee, saying, Whose art thou, and whither goest thou, and whose are these before thee? Then thou shalt say, They are thy servant Jacob's. It's a present sent unto my lord Esau, and behold, he also is behind us. Now notice something here in passing. Part of the separating of his possessions seems to be strategic for defense. There also seems to be a strategy, though, of ascending impression. As Esau beholds this assembly of animals and people, he's going to be favorably impressed. And the more of it that he sees, the more impressed he's going to be. So there's also that sort of a prioritizing of things, if you will, designed or calculated to appeal to Esau in a favorable way. Verse 19, And he commanded also the second and the third and all that followed the droves, saying, On this manner shall ye speak unto Esau when ye find him, and ye shall say, Moreover, behold, thy servant Jacob is behind us. And notice how he keeps himself to the rear, almost like the crescendo or the pinnacle climax. When I get there, by then, hopefully, his anger will be assuaged. He will be ready to speak kindly to me and will be favorably impressed. Moreover, behold, thy servant Jacob is behind us. For he said, I will appease him with the present that goeth before me, and afterward I will see his face. Peradventure he will accept me. So the present passed over before him, and he himself lodged that night in the company. Verse 22. And he rose up that night and took his 2 wives and his 2 handmaids and his 11 children, and passed over the ford of the Jabbok. And he took them and sent them over the stream, and sent over that which he had. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. Who was this man? Yeah, none other than whom we would later know as Jesus Christ. Yes. This is a striking event, and it's going to be very significant in the development of the Israelite people. And we're going to see Israel here actually wrestling with God himself. God will permit this to happen, permit him to prevail in order to make a point. You are going to be of an advanced or approved or chosen stature. You and your descendants, the Israelite people, are going to be something special, as we'll see here as this develops. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was strained as he wrestled with him. And he said, "Let me go, for the day breaketh." And he said, "I will not let thee go, except thou bless me." So Jacob is saying to God, "Don't leave me, don't go, I won't let you go." He's clinging to the man. The man is wrestling and struggling, basically saying, "I need to go, it's almost daybreak." Now, some commentators have proposed that it would not be proper for Jacob to actually look upon God or to see his face or his visage, and so he's making sure that he leaves before daybreak, whether there's any truth to that. But the point is, he says, "No, don't go until you bless me. I will not let thee go except you bless me." That sets the stage for verse 27. He said unto him, "What is thy name?" And he said, "Jacob." And he said, this is verse 28 in chapter 32, and he said, "Thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel, for thou hast striven with God and with men." So what does the name Israel mean? He who stirreth or striveth with God, or God striveth. So the whole meaning of his name is significant. And when he says, "Thou hast striven," that is, had power with, it shows that God is recognizing Israel as the progenitor or the beginning of his race that would have a special place in God's heart, a special preeminence among people. And even down to our age, the gospel would go first to the Jew and then also to the Greek. Okay? So this is, again, it's not just limited to the man. It is a foreshadowing with respect to the race itself and the people of God. And Jacob asked him and said, "Tell me, I pray thee, thy name." And he said, "Wherefore is it that thou dost ask after my name?" And he blessed him there. So he intentionally withholds his identity, but we are privileged to see it as readers of this text. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for said he, "I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved." So Jacob got it. He understood, or at least to some degree, the seriousness and significance of what's happening here. And the sun rose upon him as he passed over Peniel, and he limped upon his thigh. Again, some suggest that perhaps his thigh was dislocated in this struggle, that it was not just a little bruise, but he limps upon his thigh. Verse 32, "Therefore the children of Israel eat not the sinew of the hip, which is upon the hollow of the thigh unto this day, because he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh in the sinew of the hip." The Israelite people came to understand and to recognize the importance of this event, the seriousness of this event, and that it foreshadowed something of significance about their race. It wasn't just a struggle between two men. Any comments or questions up to chapter 33? Chapter 33 is a continuation of, and actually gets into the details of the reuniting of Jacob and Esau. Again, much of this was covered by Dawn, and I'm going to move through it rapidly unless you have a comment or question. Verse 1 says, "And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau was coming, and with him 400 men. And he divided the children unto Leah and unto Rachel and unto the two handmaids." Again, notice the priority there. "And he put the handmaids and their children foremost, and Leah and her children after, and Rachel and Joseph hindermost." Probably thinking this will be in ascending order of impression to my brother from whom I'm estranged. "And he himself passed over before them and bowed himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother." The bowing 7 times was traditional in the culture, particularly when you approached royalty, a king, to stoop and bow 7 times. He's showing the utmost humility and respect. "And Esau ran to meet him." Notice the conduct and the contrast. "And embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept." So in that verse 4, we have the beautiful reunification of these 2 estranged brothers. They've both had enough years now and time to think about what's happened, and we see them tenderly affectioned one to another as a result. Verse 5, "And he lifted up his eyes and saw the women and the children, and said, Who are these with thee? And he said, The children whom God hath graciously given thy servant." Notice how he continues in a very humble vein. His expressions are all complimentary, and he's also crediting God, not himself, with his success. And the prospering that has happened, he says, is as a result of God. "And then the handmaids came near, they and their children, and they bowed themselves. And Leah also and her children came near and bowed themselves. After came Joseph near and Rachel, and they bowed themselves. And he said, What meanest thou by all this company which I met? And he said, To find favor in the sight of my Lord." So if there was any doubt why he did these things, this verse answers that question. There may have been a strategic aspect to it, but primarily at this point, I'm trying to find favor in the sight of my brother, whom he calls my Lord. "And Esau said, I have enough, my brother. Let that which thou hast be thine." In other words, I don't need your gift. Although I appreciate it, I've got plenty. Thank you. And Jacob said, "Nay, I pray thee, if now I have found favor in thy sight, then receive my present at my hand, for as much as I have seen thy face, as one that seeth the face of God, and thou wast pleased with me." So Jacob is urging him, exhorting him to take the gift. Take it. "Take, I pray thee, my gift that is brought to thee, because God hath dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough." And he urged him, and he took it. Verse 12, "And he said, Let us take our journey, and let us go, and I will go before thee." He had armed men. He may be sort of leading the way as a courtesy. "And he said unto him, My Lord knoweth that the children are tender, and that the flocks and herds with me have their young. And if they overdrive them one day, all the flocks will die. Let my Lord, I pray thee, pass over before his servant, and I will lead on gently, according to the pace of the cattle that are before me, and according to the pace of the children, until I come unto my Lord, unto Seir." Again, Seir, the home place of Esau. "And Esau said, Let me now leave with thee some of the folk that are with me. And he said, What needeth it? Let me find favor in the sight of my Lord. So Esau returned that day on his way unto Seir, and Jacob journeyed to Succoth, and built him a house, and made booths for his cattle. Therefore the name of the place is called Succoth." That's verse 17. What we've seen there is the beautiful reuniting of these brothers who were estranged, and then each of them moving to their place of abode in peace and in harmony one with another. Verse 18 says, "And Jacob came in peace to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, when he came from Padan Aram, and encamped before the city. And he bought the parcel of ground where he had spread his tent, at the hand of the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. And he erected there an altar and called it El Elohe Israel. That's verse 20. The meaning is God, the God of Israel. So, those are kind of necessary, I guess, explanations to sort of fill in details before we move on now with the history of Israel. And that takes us to chapter 34, which is a remarkable chapter, very dramatic. And there are a lot of lessons that we can learn, I think, from chapter 34. Any questions up to that point, chapter 34? This is the incident of Dinah. And again, who was Dinah? She was the sister of the 12 patriarchs. Actually, the half-sister of most of them. This will become significant as we move forward. Let's look at the text, chapter 34, verse 1. And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. A couple of things. She was not the daughter of Rachel, nor of the handmaids. She's the daughter of Leah, just like the two brothers that we're going to encounter in this narrative. They were full brothers and sisters, all right? She would have been a half-sister to the others. And the other thing is, what is meant by the phrase, she went out to see the daughters of the land? First of all, what is the land we're talking about? Well, it's a heathen land, right? It's the land of these Canaanites who did not have and share that heritage in Jehovah or the respect for God. Why she did this is not clear. Why she would do it without supervision or without protection is a mystery to me. We're not told a lot of things here. The facts are just set forth that this is what happened. As it turns out, it's probably not a very wise thing that she, unattended or unprotected, goes out into this foreign land. She says to see the daughters of the land. And Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, the prince of the land, saw her. Now, who is the prince of the land? Yep, the son of the leader, and his name is Hamor, right? Hamor is the prince, or Shechem, his son, would be the prince, and Hamor is he's like the king. And what she's doing is, and she might have been fairly attractive, she's presenting herself, and he notices. And it says he saw her, and he took her and lay with her and humbled her. A reference, obviously, to sexual relations, and he did it at his will, not hers. And it is a case of rape by violence here in the Old Testament by these foreigners of Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. And his soul, that is the soul of whom? Shechem. His soul clave unto Dinah. That is, there was a true attraction. Now, how deep and how meaningful it really was is another question, but he was certainly attracted to her, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the damsel and spake kindly unto the damsel. So even though there was a forcible rape, there are affections towards her, and he is speaking kindly towards her. Shechem spake unto his father, Hamor, saying, "Get me this damsel to wife." Now, this boy impresses me as somebody who's used to having everything he wants. He takes this woman, humbles her, and forcibly rapes her, now comes to his father saying, "Get me her for my wife." It's all about him. You notice that. Now Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah, his daughter. Defiled in a sexual manner, that is, through fornication and forcible rape. Defiled his daughter. How would you, as the father, how would you react? And his sons were with his cattle in the field, and Jacob held his peace until they came. Now, I want you to stop and think for a minute. What would you have done if you were in Jacob's place? The answer to that is important. I think it's important for us to think about because we're going to see some mistakes made here, big mistakes. Think about what might have been done better, how this might have been handled in a better way as we read through the text. Verse 6, and Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out unto Jacob to commune with him. So, again, his son wants it. Good old dad's going to try to make it happen. And the sons of Jacob came in from the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved, and they were very what? Wroth. That word again, filled with wrath. That's more than just a momentary or fleeting anger. That word suggests a very deep wrath. And because he had wrought folly in Israel in lying with Jacob's daughter, which thing ought not to be done. There is a moral absolute that they all understood, they all recognized this was wrong. This was morally wrong. You've not only sinned against our sister, you've sinned against us and our people. This is not the kind of thing that should have been done. Now, here's another question. What would you have done if you were one of the brothers? Particularly one of the full brothers, as we're going to deal with here. Verse 8, and Hamor communed with them, saying, the soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter. I pray you, give her unto him to wife, and make ye marriages with us. Give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you. We're in chapter 34, that's verse 9. Verse 10, and ye shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade ye therein, and get you possessions therein. And Shechem said unto her father and unto her brethren, let me find favor in your eyes, and what ye shall say unto me I will give. Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me, but give me the damsel to wife. In other words, I'll pay anything you want. Sounds very reasonable, doesn't it? Yeah, I'll pay anything you want. Sounds like he's being real nice. But we're going to see here there's a hidden motive behind all of this. If you look at the text, drop down to verse 29 just for a moment. We're not there yet, but I think it's important to see this. Part of their reasoning, Shechem and Hamor's reasoning, look at verse 29, and all their wealth and all their little ones and their wives took they captive. I'm in the wrong verse. Oh, help me out. Where's the verse? Is it 23? Yes, thank you, Dawn. Shall not their cattle and their substance and all their beasts be ours? The underlying motive for what Shechem and Hamor, his father, are doing is basically to infiltrate and to take possession of the Israelite people, to dominate and to take advantage of them. So they're not dealing on good terms, on full faith, we would say. We're also going to see that there's plenty of fault on the other side. This is a very sordid, ill-conceived series of events. Verse 13, and the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father with what? The word guile means trickery, dishonesty, that they did not have pure intentions. I'm talking now about the sons of Jacob. And they spake with guile, because he had defiled Dinah their sister. Now, just a passing note here. You notice how the Bible here in this narrative is not pronouncing right and wrong on what's happening. It's just describing this is what happened. Now, this is unlike most history texts. When you read a history text of the United States, for example, or I remember when I took Virginia history in fourth grade, everything is worded in a certain way. And oftentimes when we read about the biography of a person or the history of a people, it's worded in a way to complement that people. And it's often worded in a very one-sided way. The Bible doesn't read quite like that. Actually, what we're reading here are some very terrible things that some of the heroes of the Bible did. And one of them is Jacob, but certainly at least two of his sons here. Just kind of keep that in mind as we go through this. In my opinion, that's one of the true marks of inspiration of the Bible. The objectivity of the text. It doesn't read like a man-made document, which is usually grinding an axe or advancing an agenda of some kind. Verse 13, sons of Jacob answered with guile and spake because he had defiled Dinah their sister and said unto them, we cannot do this thing to give our sister to one that is what? Uncircumcised. Now notice how they focus on circumcision as the issue. And that's not the issue. But they're speaking with guile, with trickery. And they're going to use circumcision. Now here's another problem. What was circumcision really? Was it a mere physical act? Did it not have a spiritual significance of reverence and respect in God's people? It was a covenant symbol. It was the token of the covenant of circumcision. That's right. So what they're really doing is profaning circumcision, as though it's just a physical act. We're going to take advantage of this and use it to our advantage. And he says, they say, only on this condition will we consent unto you. If ye will be as we are, that every male of you be circumcised, then will we give our daughters unto you, and we will take your daughters to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. But if ye will not hearken unto us to be circumcised, then will we take our daughter, and we'll be gone. The word take there is the same word that's used describing what Shechem did originally to Dinah. Took her. It suggests we're going to take her by force, and we'll be gone. Are they being honest and truthful? No. But this is the proposal, the terms that they present. Now, what do you think they thought that Shechem and his people would say in return? This isn't a trick question. If somebody proposed to you, all of the males be circumcised, what would you do? Why? You would decline probably very strenuously. And I have no doubt that that's what the sons of Jacob thought the people of Shechem would do. In other words, they set up what they thought was an impossible proposal. There's no way they're going to accept this. And they're saying, if you'll do this, we'll take Dinah and be gone. Knowing in their heart they'll never agree to do that. But stay tuned for one of the most masterful manipulations of people in all of the Bible. Verse 18, their words pleased Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. Now, why would they please Hamor? It's his son who really wants this. Dad, give me this. And he's bending over backwards to give it to him. Why would it please Shechem? Well, he's the one who is lustfully attracted to this woman, wants her at all costs. He's a spoiled young prince who is used to getting everything he wants. So there's no problem convincing Hamor and Shechem. The problem is, what about all the men in the land? Well, verse 19. And the young man deferred not to do the thing because he had delight in Jacob's daughter, and he was honored above all the house of his father. And Hamor and Shechem his son came unto the gate of their city and communed with the men of their city, saying, now watch this speech in verse 21. These men are peaceable with us. Stop. Who are these men? The Israelites. They're peaceful. They're good people. They want to have peace. Okay? Therefore, let them dwell in the land and trade therein. Okay, there is an economic incentive. Let these Israelites come into our city, into our land, and have commerce. Okay, so that appeals to their sense of profit. For behold, he says, the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters to us for wives. See, doesn't that sound good? And let us give them our daughters. Only on this condition will the men consent unto us to dwell with us, to become one people, if every male among us be circumcised, as they are circumcised. In other words, this isn't a big deal. They've done it. We can do this. And that's the only condition. Shall not their cattle and their substance and all their beasts be ours? An underlying motive. Very important. Only let us consent unto them, and they will dwell with us. And unto Hamor and unto Shechem his son hearkened all they that went out of the gate of the city, and every male was circumcised, all that went out of the gate of his city. By the way, the phrase, those who went out of the gate, suggests the leading men who were making the decisions for the people, okay? Not the children and not the infirm, but those who were actually involved in the leadership, or maybe the governing of the people. Yes?
Also note, we have references to how much cattle Jacob had. And so I'm sure they saw this and said, man, these guys have tons
Yeah.
of sheep, oxen,
Yeah.
you know.
These are wealthy people. They could see that, exactly, David. And it came to, verse 25, and it came to pass on the third day when they were sore. Now this is significant, not that it was planned this way, because as I said, they probably didn't think that they would really take them up on this. But 3 days later, when they were sore, and let's say incapacitated, that two of the sons of Jacob, now here are your two that are identified. What are their names? Simeon and Levi. Whose mother was that? Who was their mother? Leah. And who was Dinah's mother? Leah. And these were full blood brothers and sisters. Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers or brethren, took each man his sword. And by the way, I think it's obvious from the text, it wasn't those two alone. They are the leaders. They are the ones. But what we're talking about here is a complete routing of the city. So they obviously had assistance, whether the other brothers joined in that, or there were servants or household soldiers, whoever was used. These are the two who led the effort. And incidentally, these will be the two who later, in the very end of the book, are remembered as the violent ones with regard to their inheritance and what will be left to them. This incident will be recalled, okay? So they are the real bad apples here as to this incident. Each took his sword and came upon the city unawares and slew all of the males. And they slew Hamor and Shechem, his son, with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah out of Shechem's house and went forth. And there again, taking her suggests they took her by violence out of the house and went forth. The sons of Jacob came upon the slain and plundered the city because they had defiled their sister. This, I think, implies more than just Simeon and Levi. The sons of Jacob go in and partake of this. Basically, they rout the city and despoil it. They took their flocks, their herds, their asses, and that which was in the city. that which was in the field, and all their wealth, and all their little ones and their wives took they captive, and made a prey, even all that was in the house. By the way, taking their wives, this is one of the lowest chapters in the history of God's people. They're taking their wives for their own sexual use. They're taking their children as slaves. This is despicable. God's people. Does this not teach that God's purpose can be accomplished even despite the horrible things that God's people sometimes do? Do you see that? God's purpose is going to be threaded through this and carried out. He's going to use this horrible incident. That doesn't make it right what they did, but God's purpose is going to be furthered even so. Verse 30, and Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, ye have troubled me to make me odious to the inhabitants of the land among the Canaanites and the Perizzites, and I being few in number, they will gather themselves together against me and smite me, and I shall be destroyed, I and my house. Well, now Jacob finally wakes up and says, oh, you shouldn't have done that. Why didn't Jacob, before they did it, say, now guys, sons, settle down, let's think, let's talk, let's pray, let's do the right thing here. This again shows that the Bible isn't afraid to tell us even the bad parts of its heroes, like Jacob. The way Jacob handled this is not commendable. And certainly what his sons did is not commendable. And all they can think about, verse 31, they said, should he deal with our sister as with a harlot? The word harlot suggests that any children of her would be bastardized, that none of that which would be fulfilled in that relationship between her and these people would thereafter be blessed by God. So they're justifying themselves and saying, we had a right to do this because of what he did.
They're going to do it to the other men's wives. That is such a horrible thing what's going on.
Yeah, it is.
They don't like what happened to their sister. I don't blame them. Wow.
Well, sure. Just to read the words stirs within us a real disgust and hatred of what they have done. And our first impulse is to lash out and to say, hey, we're going to get even. We're going to make up for this. The Bible says that's what they did. The Bible doesn't say that was the right thing to do. It is a objective, non-emotional recounting of facts. This is what happened. And as we're going to see, it's going to cause a lot of problems down through the years. Well, we're almost out of time. Thank you for your attention this morning. We moved through a little text there, good many verses, and I appreciate you staying with us. So for next time, we're going to see the covenant renewed at Bethel, as sort of a refocusing, pulling a lot of loose ends together for God's people going forward after this horrific incident there in